She thought she was just feeding a homeless man on a cold, empty street, but behind those torn clothes was a billionaire in hiding, haunted by loss and driven by a secret no one saw coming. What he does next changes everything. Keep watching. The sky was bruising into twilight when Lena Carter stepped out of Mel's diner, gripping a foil-wrapped grilled cheese like it was gold. The November wind bit at her fingers, slipping through the sleeves of her too-thin hoodie. She shoved one hand into her pocket and sighed, half from exhaustion, half from the ache in her stomach that wouldn't go away. Across the street, a man sat alone on a bench, shoulders hunched, hood pulled low. His hands trembled as he tried to sip something from a paper cup that had clearly gone cold. His clothes were soaked in grime, his boots falling apart at the seams. Lena stopped. She wasn't the type to look away. She couldn't, even if she wanted to. She crossed the street slowly, her shoes crunching on fallen leaves. The man didn't look up. "Hey," she said softly. No reply. She knelt, holding the sandwich in both hands. It's not much, but it's warm. Finally, the man turned his face toward her, eyes sunken but sharp. There was something distant in his gaze, like he hadn't spoken to anyone in days, maybe weeks. "You sure?" he rasped. Lena nodded. "Yeah, I already had half." She hadn't, but he didn't need to know that. The man stared at the sandwich for a moment too long, then took it with surprising gentleness. "Thank you," he whispered. Lena smiled, but her eyes stung. "It's okay, I get it." For a brief moment, their eyes met, two strangers with nothing, sharing something that felt like everything. She turned to leave, shoving her hands deep into her hoodie to fight the wind, and maybe her own thoughts. Behind her, the man took a slow bite, closing his eyes like he hadn't tasted anything real in a long time. Neither of them knew it yet, but that quiet act was the beginning of a secret neither could outrun. The next morning, Lena woke up to the sound of her little brother arguing with the toaster. Again. "Stupid thing burns everything," he muttered, smacking the side of it with his fist. The kitchen smelled like scorched bread and old dish soap. Lena rubbed her eyes and pulled on her hoodie from yesterday. It still smelled faintly of fryer oil. "Use the pan next time, genius." "Not all of us are breakfast experts like you," he fired back with a grin, then grabbed his backpack and darted for the door. "Hey," she called, tossing him a crumpled $5 bill. "That's lunch money, no vending machines." He nodded, eyes wide with pretend innocence. "No vending machines. Got it." Then he was gone. She stood there for a second, listening to the silence he left behind. It wasn't peaceful. It was just empty. Their mom wouldn't be home for hours, still on her third shift this week at the nursing home. Lena glanced at the fridge. 3 eggs, half a bottle of ketchup, 1 apple. She wasn't sure if the growl in her stomach was from hunger or the weight of everything she kept pushing down. On the way to school, Lena walked the same cracked sidewalk she always did. She passed the boarded-up bookstore, the grocery with the flickering sign, and the alley where the lights never worked. Nothing changed here. People just got better at pretending. But she was different. Not better, just watching more closely. At school, the world spun faster. Kids talked about new phones, spring break trips, influencer drama. Lena kept her head low, speaking when spoken to, smiling when it felt safe. "Hey, Carter!" someone shouted in the hallway. "You look like you just rolled out of Goodwill." Lena didn't flinch. She just walked past them, clutching her books a little tighter. She'd learned a long time ago that silence could hurt less than fighting back. In class, the teacher passed back tests. Lena's came with a quiet smile and a red A-. It was her small win, one of the few she allowed herself to feel good about. By lunch, her stomach ached, but she didn't open her bag. Not because she wasn't hungry, she just didn't want to explain why her lunch was missing again. Instead, her mind wandered back to the man on the bench. His hands, his eyes, the way he'd said thank you like it cost him something. She didn't know why he stuck with her. Maybe it was because in that moment she'd seen herself, not in his poverty, but in his loneliness. And maybe, deep down, she was hoping someone might look at her the same way one day and see her. Lena didn't see the phone, didn't notice the guy across the street, tucked behind the coffee cart, casually recording as she handed her sandwich to the man on the bench. Didn't know that, by the next morning, her moment of quiet kindness would be everywhere. The video blew up. First, a few reposts on local accounts. Then came the hashtags. Hashtag real kindness, hashtag faith in humanity restored, hashtag teen hero. By noon, it had hit over 100,000 views. By night, it was in the millions. Lena sat on the veg of her bed, scrolling through the video with a sinking feeling in her chest. There she was, knelt down, offering the sandwich, her face soft, her voice barely audible. The comments rolled in. This girl is a literal angel. The world needs more Lenas. Someone find this girl and give her a scholarship. Her heart pounded. She didn't ask for this. At school, it was chaos. Teachers gave her knowing looks, classmates stared. A few actually talked to her for the first time all year. "Yow, Lena," a boy called as she walked past the lockers. "That video's sick. My mom cried watching it." She gave a polite smile, hugging her books tighter. Later that day, the principal called her into the office. The walls were lined with photos of student athletes and honor roll winners. Lena had never been on one. Until now. Lena, the principal beamed, sliding a local newspaper across the desk. "This is huge. You've inspired an entire city." She looked at the photo. There she was, crouched by the homeless man, headline blazing. "Teen girl shares last meal, restores hope." Her stomach turned. "You've been invited to speak at the Youth Impact Gala next week," the principal continued, "and a nonprofit called Bright Steps is offering you a scholarship. They want you to be the face of their new compassion campaign." Lena blinked. "Wait, what?" "They loved your video," he said, "but they're looking for more public-facing engagement. You'd be giving interviews, appearing in a few events, maybe even TV. Nothing invasive, just sharing your story." She sat frozen. She hadn't done it for this. That moment on the bench, it had been personal, quiet. It wasn't a campaign. It wasn't supposed to be used. But how could she say no? Her mom could never afford college, and her brother, he needed a better shot than she ever had. Still, a quiet voice in her chest whispered, "This isn't yours anymore." That afternoon, as she walked home past the diner, she paused. The bench was empty. No sign of the man, just a few stray wrappers blowing across the sidewalk. She sat down slowly, resting her hand on the worn wood where he'd been. Something felt wrong. Like the world had taken something sacred and sold it to the highest bidder. And the worst part? No one even knew his name. For the first time in her life, Lena was being noticed. But it didn't feel like recognition. It felt like performance. At the Bright Steps photo shoot, they asked her to wear a yellow shirt because it matched the campaign's optimism. They posed her in front of a mural and told her to smile like you just changed the world. She tried, but something in her smile didn't reach her eyes. Behind the lens, the man in the blazer said, "Perfect. That's authentic compassion." She almost laughed. They printed posters, made reels, paired her clip with piano music and slow fades. Lena Carter, proof that kindness still exists. They called her an icon. She felt like a cardboard cutout. The scholarship came through, but it wasn't immediate money. It was conditional. Pending continued involvement and campaign visibility, the fine print read, Lena would need to maintain her influence over the next 6 months, appear at events, speak at fundraisers. Meanwhile, the pressure at home tightened like a noose. Her little brother, Mason, had started skipping class again. When Lena confronted him, he snapped, "Why do you care now? You're too busy being famous." Their mom overheard and sighed, "He's just acting out. It's the attention. He doesn't know where he fits." Lena didn't either. That night, she sat in her room, staring at the viral video on her phone, again, watching her own hands offer the sandwich, watching the man's eyes blink in surprise. Where was he now? She'd asked around. Diner staff hadn't seen him since that night. The shelter had no record of a man matching his description. Gone, just like that. And without him, the moment felt like fiction. The next week, she was invited to a school board gala. They gave her a dress, bright blue satin, said it would pop under the lights. She stood on stage as people clapped and smiled, parents, donors, politicians. But as she looked out at the sea of polished faces, her chest tightened. None of these people knew her. They only knew a girl on a screen. After the event, a woman pulled her aside, beaming, "You're an inspiration. Honestly, I wish more poor kids had your heart." Lena blinked. "Thank you." But her hands were trembling. Back in the car, she ripped the pin off her chest, Bright Steps Youth Ambassador, and stared out the window. Everything around her was brighter now, flashier, full of attention. And yet, she had never felt smaller. The applause had faded, the headlines had moved on, but Lena's world, it was quietly unraveling. Mason got suspended for fighting. Again. Lena found him outside the school office, slumped in a chair, backpack torn, lip bleeding. She crouched beside him. "What happened?" she whispered. He wouldn't look at her. "They said I was just like you, acting poor for attention." She clenched her fists. "That's not—" "I didn't ask to be in your story, Lena," he snapped. "But now I'm the kid whose sister fed a homeless guy for clout." The words stung. Worse than she expected. At home, things weren't any better. Their mom was getting warnings from work. "Too much media attention," they said. "We can't have your name connected to controversy." Lena stood in the kitchen, holding the rejection letter her mom had brought home. Her eyes burned. "They think I staged it," Lena whispered. Her mom sat at the table, tired lines carved into her face. "It's not your fault, but people only want a story when it's neat. The second it gets messy—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. That night, Lena shut the bedroom door and sat on the floor. The lights stayed off. In the glow of her phone, she scrolled through the same video for what had to be the 100th time. There she was again, kneeling, smiling, giving. But now it felt hollow. She hadn't meant for the world to see that moment. Hadn't done it for likes or praise or free dresses. She just saw someone who needed warmth. Was that so wrong? A tear slipped down her cheek, then another. In the silence, she finally said it aloud, quiet, almost too soft to hear. "I just wanted to do something good." But good things didn't seem to stay good anymore. They were chewed up, spun around, packaged and sold. The man who started all of this? He was still gone. No thank you, no explanation, no trace. A part of her wanted to scream. The rest just wanted to forget it ever happened. It happened 3 weeks later. Lena was walking home from the store, arms heavy with groceries and heart heavier with everything else, when a sleek black town car pulled up beside her at the curb. The windows were tinted, the engines silent. She froze. The back window rolled down with a soft hum. And there he was, clean-shaven, fresh haircut, long dark coat, same eyes. Her breath caught. "You," she whispered, nearly dropping the grocery bag. The man stepped out slowly, like someone returning to Earth after being gone too long. His voice was calm, steady. "I've been looking for you, Lena." She stared, speechless. He looked so different, but she knew it was him, the man from the bench. Her voice cracked. "I thought you disappeared." "I did," he said, "but not before I saw what the world did to you, because of me." She blinked, heart racing. "Who are you?" The man glanced toward the car, then back to her. "My name is Franklin Gray." The name hit like a punch. She'd heard it before. Everyone had. Billionaire CEO, tech mogul, the man who vanished after his daughter's tragic death 2 years ago. Headlines had speculated everything: mental breakdown, secret island, scandal. But no one knew the truth. Until now. Franklin's eyes softened. "I wasn't homeless, Lena. I was hiding. After she died, I lost everything that mattered. The money, the power, none of it meant anything. So I left it behind, lived on the streets, wandered, hoping to feel something again." He stepped closer, voice breaking slightly. "That night, you sat with me. You gave me food, but more than that, you treated me like a person. No cameras, no judgment, just kindness." Lena's chest tightened. Her hands were shaking. "I didn't do it to be seen," she said. "I just saw someone who looked like they needed help." "And you helped," Franklin said. "You reminded me that people like you still exist." She could barely breathe. "I'm not here to ruin your life," he continued. "I want to make things right. For you, for your family. No campaigns, no media, just real help." He paused, then added with a faint, sad smile. "My daughter's name was Claire. She would have been your age." Lena swallowed hard. For the first time in weeks, she felt the weight in her chest begin to shift. This wasn't about going viral or performing for strangers. This was about two broken people who had unknowingly saved each other. A week later, the headlines tried to catch up. Missing billionaire Franklin Gray re-emerges after viral encounter. Teen girl's kindness uncovers a billionaire in disguise. But Lena didn't care. She didn't return the interview requests. Didn't speak at the fundraiser Bright Steps begged her to attend. She quietly handed them back their pin. Franklin kept his word. No press, no photos, just action. One morning, Lena came home from school to find their fridge full, their overdue bills paid, and her mother's job quietly transferred to a better clinic, one that valued her. Mason started at a new charter school 2 towns over. No teasing, no rumors, just a fresh start. But the real gift? It wasn't the money, it wasn't the help. It was the quiet friendship that grew between her and Franklin. They met once a week. No suits, no speeches, just coffee, conversation, and sometimes silence. Lena asked about his daughter. Franklin asked about her dreams. They didn't always talk about the night that started it all, but it lived between them, like an invisible thread. One act of kindness that broke through grief, through shame, through walls no one else could see. One afternoon, Franklin handed her a folded envelope with a simple note inside. "Let this help you build the kind of world you believe in. I trust you'll know how." Inside, a full scholarship. No conditions, no strings, just belief. As the sun set behind her, Lena sat on that same bench where it all began, this time with a warm sandwich in her hands and one extra wrapped in foil. A man passed by. Lena smiled, lifted the second sandwich. "Hungry?" she asked.